Alright, welcome back to another exciting day of online calculus. I'm being watched by absolutely no one. Good to know that you're all such dedicated students out there, that you're keeping up with your learning. What are you guys doing all day? Can't believe this. Just no one's even trying. Man, come on. Just sitting around staring at your phones all day? You can't do that for 6 weeks. Let's go. Alright, so enough of that. Next section, we skip ahead, skip a couple sections in chapter 6 because they are not part of our current curriculum, and jump ahead to section 6.5, which is on the average value of a function. Easiest thing ever that you'll ever do in calculus. Here's the formula for the average value of a function. All you have to do is find the integral, the normal integral of the function, and then they're showing this as multiplication, but basically you're dividing that by the width of the interval. So in other words, if you're doing the integral from 1 to 5, and then you would take that answer and divide it by 4, because 5 minus 1 is 4. If you're doing the integral from 0 to pi, you would take that and divide it by pi, because pi minus 0 is pi. So really easy stuff. Let's do a quick example here. So in this example it says to find the average value of the function 1 plus x squared on the interval from -1 to -2. Alright, so in order to do that, what we're going to do first is evaluate that integral. So let me get a little graphics going here. So we're going to do the integral from -1 to 2. Okay, so that's that, and then the function that we're taking the integral of is 1 plus x squared dx. Okay, so that's a really easy antiderivative to do. The antiderivative of 1 is x, plus the antiderivative of x squared is 1/3 x cubed, and we're going to evaluate this from -1 to 2. Okay, so if I plug in 2, then that would give me 2 plus 1/3 times 8. And then I have to subtract from that what I get when I plug in -1, which would be -1 plus 1/3 times -1. So on this side, that is 2 plus 8/3 minus -1 minus 1/3 equals, let's see, let's go to thirds here. So 2/3 is 6/3 plus 8/3 makes 14/3 on this side, minus -1 is 3/3 minus another third is -4/3. Okay, but then we're subtracting a negative, so we add those together and get 18/3, which is equal to 6. So what's that? Oh, so that's just the integral. That's just the area underneath the curve. So we haven't found the average value yet using that. To find the average value, then we have to take this and divide it by the width of the interval. So since we're doing the integral from -1 to 2, we have to take our answer 6 and divide it by 2 minus -1, which is 6 divided by 3, which is 2. So that means that the average value of this function across that interval is -1, or from the interval from -1 to 2 turns out to be 2. And so what's really happening there is, if we take a look at the graph of 1 plus x squared, that is obviously a parabola that crosses the y-axis at 1. And then if we're finding the average value of the interval from -1 to 2, so we're going from here to, say, here, and what we've done then is we found the area underneath this curve. That's what we did when we first did the integral. And so by finding the average value, what you're doing is you're saying this has a total area of 6. So since this width here from -1 to 2 is 3, that means the average value of this, in other words, if I took this and turned it into a rectangle, the height of that rectangle would be 2, in order to make the area of this rectangle equal to the area of this funky shape right there. All right? Easy stuff. Okay, and then like I said, there's, I guess maybe we didn't say, there's another important theorem that is connected to this, which is called the mean value theorem. And what that tells us is that the function has to take on its average value someplace in between the intervals. So you can kind of see here, when I draw this rectangle and get an area of 2, at this point right here for sure, the function takes on the value of 2 and possibly at another place there as well. So let's figure out where that does happen. So we found the average value here in the last exercise. So average value equals 2. So what we're going to do now is we're going to see where does this function equal to on that interval from -1 to 2. So I'm going to take 1 plus x squared equals 2. So what I just did there is I took the function and set it equal to the average value, and now I am going to just solve that for x. So subtract 1 from both sides, so x squared equals 1, and then take the square root of both sides, and I get x equals 1 or -1. And so what that means is I drew a surprisingly accurate graph here, because here is where the function equals the average value. That looks like it's at -1, and here's where the another place where the function equals the average value. That looks pretty close to +1. Okay? Alright, so that's it. So here's some problems for you to work if you want to practice that. Like I said, none of you guys are watching these videos. I have no views as of right now, so I'm a little discouraged by that. But maybe if the views start going up a little bit, well then I'll put a little bit more time into this. Or if you have questions, of course, you can always email me or comment on the video or whatever. Lots of ways for us to get in touch. Alright, do it again tomorrow.